My 24M, parents 49M and 49F disowned me 5 years ago for false accusations. Now they want to talk. I am bisexual. When that happened, I was still in the closet and didn't tell anyone about my ex or relationship. My ex and my family were my whole world. I thought I had a good relationship with my parents. I had inside jokes with my dad, shared hobbies with my mom. I also had a good relationship with my sister, 10 at the time. I didn't drink, smoke, or be late most nights. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't that troubled teenager of a boy that didn't deserve to be freaking heard. In the summer, my ex and I planned a sleepover at his parents' house. I knew it was a stupid decision to sleep at his parents' house when no one knew about our relationship, but I was 19, stupid and hormonal. His parents heard us, and his father entered the room and beat my ex-boyfriend. When he tried to hit me, his wife grabbed him, and I quickly grabbed my clothes and ran away and went to my home. In the evening of the next day, my father entered my room and grabbed my hair while my mother was crying and telling me I had SA'd my little sister as well. I didn't understand what she was saying, and I told her of course I didn't SA her, but my father said that I was just a mistake and dragged me out of the house and told me that if I didn't run away from him now, like I ran away from my victim's house yesterday, he will turn himself into the police because he will be murdering me. I tried to call my ex-boyfriend to make sure he was okay, but he didn't answer. When I called my grandmother, she told me I should be ashamed of myself and I should surrender myself to the police and that she would support me if I did this. I tried to ask her what was happening, but she said that she couldn't bear to hear my voice and hung up the phone. I went to the house of my close friend Angel. She wasn't at home, but her father was. I call him Uncle. I did not plan to talk to him, but I could not stand it and cried in front of him. He listened to me and assured me that I had a place in his house and to not worry. The next day, my uncle sat me down and told me that he spoke to my father, and he told him that I had SA'd my ex-boyfriend and forced him to do things he didn't want to do. Had it not been for his parents discovering us, I would continue the SA. I was shocked and showed him the messages that were between us. I don't remember what happened, but I was crying hysterically. An angel was holding me and my uncle calling the ambulance. After I got out of the hospital, we spoke with a lawyer and reached an agreement with my ex-boyfriend that he would confess to my family that it was a lie. Otherwise, I will file a defamation case. All the evidence was against my ex-boyfriend, and he accepted. But it wasn't enough for my parents because they sent me a legal disowned letter. I will spare you from the details, but know that I am fine now. 2 days ago, my parents sent me a long message asking to talk. They said my sister died and they wanted me at the funeral on Friday and to talk. So I told them to F off and to give the funeral location. They told me either I talk to them or they won't give me the time and location. I went to see my little sister, but I don't want to see my parents. The thought of them only makes me sick. What did I do wrong to deserve this? Be gay? Edit. My uncle is actually my friend's father. I call him uncle out of respect for him. He isn't related to my family and doesn't know anyone except my parents. Edit. I couldn't find my sister's death record online as some suggested, but I spoke to my aunt and she assured me that my sister had died. I asked her about the location of the funeral, but she refused to tell me. I see a lot of comments saying they are lying about my sister's death. I don't think they are. I have nothing. I'm not successful. I don't own my own company or my own home. I don't even have kids. Update. English is not my first or second language. I will be referring to my relatives by you and A. U for my blood uncle and A for my aunt. I would be calling my friend father uncle. Before the update, I want to answer some questions. Why did they accuse you of SAing your sister, and who accused you? The answer is, I don't know. Why don't you search for your sister's name online instead of talking to your family? I tried, but I couldn't find her name. My friend told me that sometimes these things take up to 2 weeks to go public. Why not ask funeral homes? I tried, but the law in my country is different. Why don't you lie and tell your parents you'll talk after the funeral? My parents were very clear in the messages that they wanted to talk before Friday. Why not ask your family members? I did. I asked you and A. You told me that he doesn't want to be in a family fight. And A confirmed my sister's death, but she didn't want to give me the location. I didn't want to continue asking because my family is small, and I didn't want to risk my parents knowing about my search for the funeral's location. About my ex. When my ex-boyfriend confessed, he said that his parents wanted to kick him out and stop paying for his college fees. So he told them that I SA'd him, and he wanted to report me to the police to shut his father up. But his father told him not to do that, so he thought his parents dropped it. He didn't expect his parents to go and talk to my parents. Now, time for the update. Thanks, Reddit. I took a lot of your advice. This happened 2 weeks ago. After the post and talking to A and you, I decided to meet my parents. I didn't have much time until the day of the funeral, and I didn't want to miss it. Many of you advised me not to go, but I hope you understand my position. She is my only sister. I know that she has changed and isn't the same person anymore, but I was going to say goodbye to that child that I remember, not the person she is now. On Wednesday evening, I told my uncle about my decision. I didn't need to ask him if he could come with me or not. He beat me to it and said he would go with me. I asked Angel and another dear friend of mine, and they accepted. I spoke to the same lawyer who handled my SA allegations. I asked him to supervise my meeting with my parents. I did not expect him to accept, but surprisingly he did. He tried to confirm my sister's death, but unfortunately, due to lack of time, he couldn't. On Thursday morning, I spoke to my parents and told them that I would meet them this evening, but on my own terms. 1. I will have a lawyer, and we will meet at a law firm. 2. Half an hour after our meeting, my parents will give me the funeral location or I will leave. My parents tried to argue, but I put my foot down, and they agreed to my terms. When I got to the law firm and saw my parents for the first time in years, they smiled at me and waved like nothing had happened. After they sat down, the lawyer started recording the meeting and introduced himself before mentioning my first and new last name. My father disowned me, and I legally lost my last name. I heard my last name a lot in the past 5 years, but in that moment, it felt real. I don't know how to describe it, but the realization that I was actually disowned hit me. I feel that my parents felt the same way because the joy in their faces disappeared after hearing my name. After the lawyer finished explaining everything, the meeting started and my parents spoke to me as if the past 5 years had not happened. I was disgusted when my mother tried to hold my hand, but I pulled away. My parents didn't say anything worth mentioning. After half an hour, my lawyer asked my parents to give me the funeral location. My father said that when the family goes through difficult circumstances, they support each other. My friend interrupted him and told him my new last name. My parents seemed devastated, but my mother continued and said, "Do you know those feelings that you felt when you heard the news of your sister's death? I will feel them soon." I was confused and asked her, "What does this have to do with the funeral location?" My lawyer spoke and asked my parents if my sister died or not. My father tried to change the subject, but my lawyer repeated the question and my father said no. You are right, Reddit. It was a lie. My sister did not die. The writing was on the wall, but I couldn't see it. Nothing written in the message was real. After my father told me that my sister wasn't dead, my body felt very heavy and I couldn't breathe. That's all I remember. I was told that I looked like a ghost. My lawyer tried to talk to me, but I didn't respond. So he decided to end the meeting, but my father objected and started yelling at me. I tried to run, but I fell and started vomiting excessively before I passed out on the floor. I feel like an idiot. I can't believe I fell for this lie. I kept telling myself that my parents wouldn't lie to me about this. We're not in a TV show or a movie. I kept telling myself that you hates family drama and wouldn't get involved in something like this. I can't believe they did this to my sister. For God's sake, I am their son. When my dad told me that he was going to kill me, I never thought he would do it, but now I'm not sure. I don't know who my parents are anymore. I don't even know why they lied. After the meeting, they sent me a message asking if I was okay. They didn't apologize or even give me any explanation whatsoever. I have filed a restraining order against my parents and anyone who's involved, including you and A. Some of my relatives contacted me and swore to me they had nothing to do with what was happening and that they thought that my parents were going to talk to me about my grandmother's illness and her desire to see her family together. Some of them even sent me medical reports proving her illness and her wanting to see me, but I don't want to see her or any of my family members ever again. When my ex confessed his lies, she didn't believe my ex. She said I pressed my ex legally to lie about not being SA'd by me, and I should stop lying and confess so everyone can move on. What hurt me the most was that she wanted to fix me. She was sending me Me Too stories and sending me to places that treat abusers until I gave up and blocked her. The police were called on my parents. My sister is currently living with one of my relatives, and no, I didn't talk to her. My therapist advised me not to. I currently live with my uncle. I feel safe near him. He helped me a lot without question or hesitation. He even took care of my pet bird for free. I owe him, Angel, and my friend a lot. Even in my teenage years before this happened, they were always by my side. I don't think I would have survived without them. I hope my sister has the same support too. I don't know why my parents resorted to lying about my sister, and I don't think I want to know. I lost what little respect I have for them. Thank you, Reddit. I don't know how this would have ended without your advice. We haven't gotten one of these stories in a while, but I don't know what it is, but they really get under my skin. Where these stories involve someone, usually OP, getting falsely accused of something. And then the family's like, oh my goodness, how could you? And then they don't give OP an opportunity to explain themselves or provide any opportunities. They just say, how could you do it? You know what you did. And OP's like, what did I do? And they're like, you know what you did. No! Freaking talk, you dumb mother. Oh my god. These stories get me really angry. Anyway, let's continue. Next story. Story number 2. Ex-fiance wants to meet up after leaving me at the altar 4 years ago. Basically, 4 years ago, I, F29, was supposed to be getting married to my fiance at the time, Jay. Everything was going perfect. I was in my dress, had my makeup on, and taking pictures with my bridesmaids. I was pretty much ready to walk down the aisle when Jay's best man pulled me to the side and said Jay was gone. He had gotten into a car and left, and no one was able to get a hold of him. I came home to our apartment and all of his stuff was gone. He's been pretty much a ghost ever since he left me, and I had to force myself to move on. I ended up going on our honeymoon with my best friends, which was the best decision ever, and then put myself in therapy to heal for the horrible trust issues I now have. I haven't heard from him once until today. I guess he got back in contact with an old mutual friend who gave him my number. Jay texted me and said he wants to meet up and apologize. He says he has a lot to explain to me about what happened that day. I'm torn. I swore Jay was a dead memory, but my curiosity and desire to get closure with him is pestering me. My current boyfriend supports me in whatever I decide, and I feel out of respect to him and how wonderful he's been, I should ghost Jay. But I'm very confused. I never expected to hear from Jay again. I have no idea what to do. Please, help. Update. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for the advice. Honestly, I wrote the post just to vent my frustration and confusion and possibly get advice. I honestly forgot about the post for a few days until my sister and I were talking and she mentioned that she saw a post from some girl getting left at the altar and the ex showing up again years later. I told her it was mine and she had been pushing me to do an update post. I figured it might be therapeutic to write everything down as a final closing of the J chapter. This all happened 2 weeks ago. Against most of the advice, I did meet up with Jay. As a lot of you said, it did not add any value to my life. Also, it was part of a 12-step program, and he was making amends. We met up at a park, and my boyfriend came with me. He sat off to the side while Jay and I talked. I actually feel stupider after meeting with him. There were a lot of things in our relationship that would have had me out of the door if I paid more attention and if he wasn't such a great liar. Basically, for the last year of our relationship, he was doing drugs and cheating on me. He had been struggling with his sexuality for years, and it's not surprising it ended up this way, not knowing the truth. His family are incredibly homophobic and are horrible people. I wanted nothing to do with him when we were together, but he insisted on them being around just for the big life events, like our wedding. The drugs were something to get him through the day and act like he was in love with me when he was actually in love with someone else. He had met his boyfriend at work, and I had actually met him a few times when I drop off lunch for Jay. When our wedding approached, his boyfriend said he needed to choose, and Jay chose him. So he packed his bags up and pretended everything was great until his boyfriend picked him up and they moved 2 towns over. I asked him if he was still with his boyfriend and he said no. He thought he could quit the drugs once he was free of his family and lying, but he couldn't. His boyfriend found out and left him. He kept going, getting high and hooking up with random people. One of his regular hookups ended up overdosing while they were asleep in the same bed and died, and he realized he had to get sober. He apologized for not being honest with me and leading me on like he did. He wished he could go back and be truthful because I would have been the most accepting of him being gay out of everyone. He said he missed me when he left because even though he didn't love me romantically, I was still his best friend. It was a lot to take in. I told him while I'm glad he's okay and is doing better, I'd prefer for us not to have any contact moving forward. But I do forgive him. He said he understood and he was only in town for a few more days and he'd be gone for good again. I'll admit, when I got home, I cried. My boyfriend held me and ordered me my favorite takeout. He's been really the best and didn't pressure me to talk about anything until I was ready. So, if I got anything out of the worst day of my life, it's led me to who I'm with now. So, if you were in OP's position, would you forgive him? Would you be like, I understand, because, you got the homophobic parents and the closeted urges and the drugs? Or you would have been like, no, you could have said something. You ruined my life. What would you do in your situation? Well, I'm curious. Next story. Story number 3. My ex-husband and his new wife made my daughter a back brace out of wood and steel and forced her to wear it. My daughter is 9, and we share custody by alternating weeks. My daughter says her back hurts now and her arm is tingling. I have a doctor's appointment for her on Monday, and in the meantime, I'm trying to remain calm. I confronted my ex-husband about it, and all he would say was one text message where he says his new wife didn't like how my daughter slouched at the dinner table. They aren't doctors, and there is nothing wrong with her that she needs a brace. I freaking want to kill the both of them. Is there a way I can get a quick court date or see a judge? Because I don't want her going back there. When we divorced, it took a long time to figure out custody. Edit. Sorry, the location is the state of Florida. I'm so mad I'm having a hard time focusing. Update. First, I would like to thank everyone for all the support in my first post and all the supportive PMs. It was really overwhelming, in a good way. A few people asked for an update, so here it is. So, a lot has happened since I first posted. I called into work while I was trying to get all this sorted. One of my coworkers has a cousin who is a lawyer, and she knew someone who was able to help me file the paperwork. My husband played dumb in court, but his visits got reduced to supervised, and he was ordered to take a parenting class. My daughter went to physiotherapy. Eventually, the court reinstated his visitation when he swore he had learned his lesson and was sorry, and with his otherwise clean record, the court agreed. I was against it, but the court ruled against me. I gave my daughter her own cell phone so she could call me whenever she needed to. And on her second visit, it happened again. This time, the brace had steel and fabric instead of wood, and they took her phone too. The next night, she left when they weren't looking and went up the street to a neighbor who is a police officer. The neighbor called paramedics and her co-workers. They had to cut the brace off my daughter. My husband and his wife were arrested. They got out quickly, but they have been charged and their infant is with CPS. My ex lost visitation and custody, and I'm working on making it permanent. Unfortunately, my daughter's shoulder was dislocated from the brace. It set back her rehab, and part of her arm is still numb and tingling. She needed surgery and is still recovering. She always played sports, especially at school, and did dance, but the doctor thinks she won't ever be able to lift her arm all the way up again. I hate my ex, and he'll see her again over my dead body. Right now, I'm focusing on my daughter while my lawyer takes care of things. That's my update. I would have liked to get some details on the new wife. I'm assuming that OP probably didn't have any, but the fact that she says, oh, I don't like the way you slouch, here's a wooden brace, and the father was like, yeah, whatever, do that to my daughter. I feel like something's going on there, but next story. Story number 4. I sat down on my friend's MacBook and broke it. Offered to pay her the money for it, but now she wants more because she was upgrading anyway. So it's this or she will sue me in small claims court. I had some of my friends over at my house, and one of my friends invited one of her other friends to come over. She had her MacBook on my couch when I sat on it and broke it. Since it was completely my fault, I offered to pay her the money for it and she agreed. She got it 3 years ago, and it cost $2,200 at the time. I told her that I would wire you the money in a week to her bank account. But she has now emailed me saying that as per our conversation, she's expecting the $2,700 that I have agreed for? I didn't know why she added the extra money, so I got her number from my friend and called her to find her telling me she's now expecting me to pay for her new upgraded MacBook since she was upgrading anyway. She said if I don't agree to it, that she'll be suing me in small claims court. Can a judge agree to that? Should I wire her the $2,200 or should I just tell her to go sue me? Update. I went through every single comment from the 200 plus comments, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you. I did some research for repairing the screen for the MacBook, and for her particular model, it's around $310 for the screen plus the labor cost. So I wrote her back saying that since she didn't accept my initial offer of $2,200, I'm withdrawing that offer and offering to pay for the repair cost. She sent me an email calling me a B-word and that she's going to take me to court. I got served a few days later and went to court. I told the judge I gave her 3 options to choose from. 1. Either to write her a check for a brand new one, which was $2,200. 2. Get her a refurbished one from Apple or a third party, or even used, which would be around $1,400. Or 3. Fix her current MacBook, since the screen is the only thing affected here, and it would cost around $300 plus money for labor. I printed out the email I sent her, and the mail that she sent back refusing, demanding the $2,700, and calling me a B-word, and saying we'll go to court. Plus screenshots for the price quotes from different websites for a new/refurbished and fixed screen for her particular model. And I gave it to the judge. I also told him that when I offered at the very beginning to get her a new one from the Apple Store, she said, no, I want the money in cash. When I told her I'd give her $2,200 for a new one, she said okay, but later came asking for $2,700 because she wants to upgrade. I tried to show him how it's clearly visible that she's trying to take advantage of me. She gave the judge an attitude almost the whole time, which really pissed the judge off, and helped my case, I guess. After listening to both of us, he ruled that I pay 50% of the repair cost since she irresponsibly left her laptop on the couch. So I'll only be paying not more than $200 to $250 for the whole thing. If it weren't for you guys, I would have paid $2,200 instead of around $200. And honestly, I loved her look at the end as we walked out. This is a good story to end on. The first 3 stories were a little rough emotionally speaking, but you know what? This lady got her just desserts. She was upgrading anyway, so give me more money? That doesn't even make any sense, Susan. You better stop. All right, and now since you wanted to have an attitude with your honor, you're gonna get $300 and $200. So take it or leave it. Well, that's the end of the video. Press a button. Press any of the buttons. It doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye bye.